So we've got our palms over our eyes and we're just having a couple of quiet breaths on our backs. And yeah, we're going to then just do a couple of simple familiar movements on our back. So yes, with your palms over your eyes, you can let your head roll a little bit to the right and to the left. And whenever you've had enough of your palms being over your eyes, let your arms come to rest on the floor beside you. And let a breath come in, let a breath leave you. And if your legs, hi May, we're starting lying down. So yes, which just a little bit of lying down. So on your back, if your legs are long, bend your knees. So have your knees bent and your feet standing on the floor. And you're just going to start to let your knees tilt to the right and to the left. And see how this feels. That's nice. So again, you could just, yeah, how does this feel around your pelvis, lower back, hip joints, low ribs? And you can keep this movement small, or if your body feels quite free and easy, you can let your knees go a little bit further. So a couple more times, letting the knees tilt to the right and to the left. Good. And then pause in the center. And you're going to keep one knee bent, it doesn't matter which, and you're going to lengthen the other leg out on the ground. So we're going to come to this movement, which we're all familiar with, where we press, so whichever foot is standing on the floor, we're pressing into that foot and we're letting that side of the pelvis come away from the floor. That's it. So our pelvis tilts towards the long leg side. And if we let our long leg be heavy and passive on the floor, as the pelvis tilts in that direction, the long leg rolls a little bit on the floor, but it doesn't lift. That's it. And just keep repeating this movement a few times. It might be that you need to adjust the position of your standing foot on the floor. So if it's not particularly easy to press into your foot, you might need to move where it is, possibly bring it a little bit closer towards your bottom, or a little bit further out to the side. So that's it. And as you press into that foot, the foot that's standing on the floor, send the knee forwards over the foot. So don't let the knee tilt over towards the long leg. That's it. And then you just get this little bit of a feeling of opening through the front of the bent leg thigh when we send the knee away. Good. Okay, and just repeat this another couple of times. When I'm doing this, I often tend to coordinate the pressing with my out breath. Good. And then in your own time, you're going to change legs. So bend the other leg, lengthen out the leg that was bent. And it's come to doing the same movement on the other side. Sorry, I've just got to grab a tissue. So coming to do the same movement on the other side. So that's pressing movement. We've got the other foot now standing on the floor. We're pressing into the foot, letting the pelvis lift on that side. And the pelvis tilts towards the long leg side. That's it. And our weight sort of rolls towards the outside of the long leg and towards the sort of outside of the pelvis too, or the long leg side of the pelvis. Good. So just a couple more times on this second side. Again, thinking about the knee moving forwards over your foot. And again, if you like, that coordinating of the movement with your out breath. Good. So you could do this once more on this side. And then if you like for a moment, you could lengthen both legs out on the floor. And give your legs a little roll or bounce your knees. And just feel the length of your body on the ground. Good, very nice. And then from lengthening your legs out, you can fold your knees into your chest. And hold around your knees and just do a little bit of rocking from side to side, or just a little bit of quiet breathing. Good. Very nice. And from there, you can also take your legs up towards the ceiling, give them a bit of a shake out, and you can add your arms in if you like. And from doing that, you're going to fold your knees back in towards your chest. And then this time, when you fold your knees back in towards your chest, what I'd like you to do is sort of slide your hands in between that fold at the back of your knees. So, and just, it might be that your elbows can come onto the ground if you do that. So your knees are folded into your chest and you slid your hands sort of in between the fold at the back of your knees. So between the back of your thighs and your calves. So I always think about this being like we're doing child pose on our backs. I know we don't have our hands like this in child pose. I suppose we could do. And I just would like you to have a couple of quiet breaths here. So letting your breath come in, letting your breath leave you. Notice what parts of the back of your body are in contact with the floor. And also noticing how comfortably or perhaps not comfortably your legs are resting onto your chest. And also think about this being child pose, because in a moment we're going to try to disturb ourselves as little as possible. I'd like you to roll over into child pose, obviously not with your hands staying in that same position. So yeah, sort of start to think about that, that prospect, and then doing it in your own time. And just coming over. And when you arrive in child pose, and again, you can have your arms however you like. Once you're the other way up, then just letting yourself settle for a couple of quiet breaths and noticing again which parts of your body now are in contact with the ground. So that feeling of your weight dropping down through the fronts, through your shins, the fronts of your lower legs, and possibly through your forehead and elbows as well. Have one more cycle of breath in child pose. So let the breath come in, let the breath leave you. And then coming onto hands and knees. And on hands and knees, we're going to come into some cat movements. So you can start, once you've settled on hands and knees, you can start to round your back to the ceiling. And you can start to dip your spine down to the floor. And these sort of, I suppose, first times we start to move into cat, it's just really noticing how does your spine feel, particularly how does your lower back feel as you round your back to the ceiling. Perhaps how does your upper back feel, the spine between the shoulder blades feel, and your neck as you dip your spine down to the floor. And seeing if you can be aware of your breath, so feeling the flow of your breath through your body. It doesn't matter how you're breathing, but as you're rounding and dipping your spine, see if you can feel your breath, your in-breath and your out-breath flowing through you. And then from hands and knees, we're going to come into dog pose. So you're going to tuck your toes under, you might feel that you want to take your hands a little bit wider apart for dog, tucking your toes under, rocking your hips back and then up, and having a few breaths in dog pose. Good. So just, yeah, how does this first dog pose feel? Good. That's nice. Very nice. And we are going to make this into a little bit of a sequence. So from dog pose, you can have another couple of breaths in dog pose, but from dog pose, you're going to be then walking your hands in towards your feet. So you're coming into a forward bend. So feel that all of the weight's in your feet. And if it's better for your lower back to bend your knees and rest your elbows on your thighs, you can do. And just again, maybe have another cycle of breath or even 2 in your forward bend. So let the breath come in. As the breath leaves you, really give away the weight of your head. And then on the next exhalation, you can roll up into standing or walk your hands up the fronts of your legs. And all I'd like you to do when you arrive in standing is just to arrive in standing for a breath or 2. So you might want to look down at your feet, just for reassurance that they're there. And then a moment in standing, feeling yourself in standing. So you can drop your shoulders down away from your ears. It doesn't matter where you stay on your mat, but we're going to be going back down to the floor. So you don't need to move away from the back of your mat. So let your shoulders drop down, maybe close your eyes for a moment, feel your footprints on the floor. Let a breath come in, let a breath leave you. And then we're going to roll back down into our forward bend and go on down into a squat from our forward bend. So all of these movements, so again, you can roll down, you can bring your elbows onto your thighs, you can have a couple of breaths in your forward bend, you can release your arms if you prefer. So we're just going through this range of movements to get a sense of how our body is feeling. So from your forward bend, obviously to move into our squat, we just start to bend our knees more. So we can come through that sort of almost halfway point where our chest is coming close to our thighs. And then it might be that your heels come up off the floor, which is absolutely fine. Because from this squat, we're going to sort of our best ability, roll forwards bring our knees down to the ground. That's it. And then walk our hands forwards. And I want you to walk your hands a little bit further forward. So they're not just under your shoulders, but they're coming a little bit further forwards. And then just see a few times without pushing yourself. How does it feel to then rock your weight forward? So you're letting your pelvis rock forward. So it's the very beginning of face up dog. So you may feel that you need to take your hands further forwards if you didn't take them that far forwards. Yes, it says easy in my book. So just perhaps 3 times, very easily. How does it feel to rock your weight forwards? And then fold back into child pose again, or kneeling if you prefer, just for a couple of breaths. Let the breath come in, let the breath leave you. And then come back onto hands and knees. Good. And then this time when we arrive on hands and knees, we're going to do some of our tail wagging movements. So come onto hands and knees and maybe start off with just that movement of imagining you have a tail and wagging or swishing your tail from side to side. And then we'll try a little variation that we haven't done this precise variation for a while. It's where we just work on one side a few times. So let one lower leg come out to the side and you look down towards your foot. And you just repeat that on the same side a few times. So the foot and the lower leg come out to the side and you look down the side of your body towards the foot. And you repeat the same side a few times, sort of half a dozen or so. That's it. And then you can do the same thing on the other side. I'll turn around, but you don't need to. So you let the lower leg come out to the side. So your knee stays put on the floor and you're just swinging your foot and your lower leg out to the side. And you're looking along the floor towards the foot. Okay. And then we can also do the variation, which we do a bit more, where we let both legs go to one side and then the other. And again, it depends if you do this very quickly, which is the little fishes one, you probably don't want to look at your feet. It's funny, even the thought of that makes me feel a bit queasy. But if you go more slowly, you could look down towards your feet. And then let's finally just come back to just wagging your tail without moving your lower legs. And if, like me, you're feeling you just need to take the weight off your wrists for a moment, come down onto your elbows and do a little bit more tail wagging on your elbows, because we're going to come into dog pose for a moment. So it would perhaps be good to give the hands and the wrists a little rest. Okay, and then when you're ready, when you feel that you can take your weight into your hands, you're going to come back onto hands and knees, tuck your toes under. We're going to move into dog pose. So exhaling, rocking the hips back over the heels, coming back into dog pose. So a second dog pose. How does it feel? All the little adjustments, well, the main adjustment we make in dog pose is bending our knees, walking on the spot. How does it feel to have 2 or 3 more cycles of breath in dog? And whenever you're ready from dog, we're going to be walking our feet. No, we're going to be walking our hands in towards our feet. Nearly got us going into handstand then. So walking our hands in towards our feet, coming into our forward bend. Again, you could rest your elbows on your thighs if that's better for your lower back. Have a couple of cycles of breath in your forward bend. Let the breath come in, let the breath leave you. And then as you exhale, sink into your heels, roll up into standing. Now you can stay at the back of your mat, or you can come more towards the center of your mat, because we're going to do a couple more things in standing this time. So once you've arrived in standing, the first thing you're going to do is just this coming onto the balls of your feet a few times. So how does that feel? As soon as I do this, is my sort of all these sort of clunky bits in my feet start clicking around. Good. So a few times, rocking your weight onto the balls of your feet. Try to feel it stays quite wide. So you're not just bringing your weight onto the base of your big toe, but you could feel that width of the ball of your foot. Base of the big toe to base of the little toe. And then let's just see if we can come up and stay there and maybe bring our arms up. So come into the balance where we're balancing on the balls of our feet. Can we float our arms up? Feeling quite sort of, soft arms, soft shoulders, relaxed arms, soft shoulders, good. And maybe have a breath or two here. That's good. Let the breath come in, let the breath leave you. Yes, and then whenever you've had enough, you can let your arms come down, maybe give your legs a little lengthen out. And then come back to the back of your mat again, because once more we're going to go down through a forward bend and squat. So whenever you're ready, you can roll forwards into your forward bend. So again, it could be elbows on your thighs. Perhaps just, how does your forward bend feel now? I think it's our second forward bend. No, it's our fourth forward bend. So how does it feel now? And then again, starting when you've had a couple of breaths in your forward bend, you can start to bend your knees. It's quite nice to sort of rest for a moment at that sort of halfway point to squat, where maybe your chest is close to your thighs, or even resting on your thighs. And then you start to let your knees bend more straight forwards over your feet. Perhaps your heels come up. And then from our squat, we'll be trying to come forwards. So can we have our hands on the floor? Can we roll through the tops of our feet? Bring our knees down. And just as we did in the last cycle of this sequence, we're going to walk our hands forwards on the floor, so slightly further forwards than our shoulders, and just see again, how does it feel to rock our pelvis forwards? Now, what we haven't done yet today, apart from what we did on our backs, which was slightly starting to open us in the front of the pelvis, is we haven't done any sort of lungey things to make this a little bit easier, which is what we will do in a moment. So keep it as an easy face-up dog. And then once more, rock back into child pose or kneeling, and just have a couple of quiet breaths. And just letting yourself settle quietly. Let the breath come in, let the breath leave you. And then from child pose or kneeling, we're going to, either from hands and knees or from this sort of up kneeling position, I'd like you to bring one foot forward. So we're coming into that twist first of all, where we've got our front knee over our front heel and the back knee's under the pelvis. So you're not quite in a long, it's like a mini lunge position. And from here, we're turning towards our front leg. And we're trying to give away our back arm. Front hand can rest on the front thigh, that's it. So really trying to let this back shoulder drop, feeling wide across the front of the chest. And this is quite a good one for starting to move into a little bit of that tightness we might feel in our upper backs. So perhaps another breath or two here. Good. Beautiful, really nice. And then from here, we're going to untwist, fold forwards over our front leg, and then we can tuck our toes under our back foot and start to walk the back foot back. So we're coming into more of a lunge now, a lunge where we're starting to feel that stretch through the front of the back leg thigh. So we want to stay really planted through the front foot. Sometimes it's quite easy when we've got this in lunge, I find, to sort of collapse a bit onto the arch of our front foot. So just really stay planted across the whole of the ball of your foot and the outer edge of your foot, and of course your heel. And have a couple more breaths, 2 or 3 more breaths in lunge. We're looking to feel that stretch through the front of the back leg thigh. I tend to just look down at the ground and make my focus that opening across the front of my pelvis and my back leg thigh. I tend to not really think too much about my shoulders, apart from trying to keep them soft and relaxed. And then from lunge, we can untuck our back toe and we can do our easing out, our sort of easing back from lunge. So keeping our chest close to our front thigh, looking back behind us. Now the stretch or the lengthening is sort of through the back of the front leg thigh. Good. And then we're going to swap sides. So we're going to come back to doing that twist on the other side. So either you come from hands and knees, it's almost or from up kneeling and bringing the other foot forward. So I've turned around, but you don't need to. Just make sure you've got the other foot forwards. So we're trying to feel as steady here as possible. So we've got that sort of a hip width distance between our front foot and the back knee. And then we're turning towards this front leg. And yeah, I'm quite interested because I think prior to Zoom, I didn't really do this twist that much. And I've been doing it a lot more and I feel a lot more steady in it and can feel its benefits more. So there you go, that's practice. Of course, back shoulder as relaxed as possible, back arm as relaxed as possible, front arm as well. But for me, it's that back arm that can be more problematic. Wide across the front of the chest, feeling wide, feeling the shoulders drop and soften and fall away from your ears. Good. Maybe one more cycle of breath here. Let the breath come in, let the breath leave you. And then untwist, fold forwards over your front leg. Tuck your toes under in your back knee. So just whatever works for you in terms of moving your back leg further back so that when we now bump up against, experience the stretch through the front of the back leg thigh. And it's up to you whether you have your back toes tucked under or flat. You can do either. But we just want to feel this opening through the front of our pelvis on that back leg side, through the front of the thigh. And we can just, maybe have another breath or two here. Let the breath come in, let the breath leave you. Again, just have a look at your front foot. Make sure that foot's planted on the floor. It's not that we're trying to lift our arches off the floor, it's just that we're trying to plant through the whole of the ball of the foot, the outer edge of the foot, the heel. And just feel a really planted foot on the ground. Okay, we've probably been there long enough. We can untuck our back toes, we can ease back. Looking back behind us, coming onto maybe the heel of the front foot, chest staying close to the thigh. And then I think, yes, we're coming onto hands and knees, and we're going to come through dog pose and then onto a forward bend and back up into standing for a couple of other standing things. So when you're ready, hands and knees, tucking your toes under. And I always find, I think after lunge, that dog pose can feel particularly nice. We've been focusing on that opening through the front of the body, and then we contrast that in dog where we're lengthening through the back of the body. We're lengthening through the back of the legs, and also across the back of the shoulders, down the length of the spine. So have, whatever you like, 2 or 3 more cycles of breath in dog. And depending how comfortable your dog is feeling, you might find there's a possibility to be quiet and just really experience the movement of your breath through your body. And then from dog, we walk our hands in towards our feet. We arrive in a forward bend, and we give ourselves a couple of breaths in the forward bend. And then that's it, very nice, giving the head away there. And then when you're ready, sinking into your heels, rolling up into standing. And maybe before you move away from the back of your mat, just arrive in standing for a moment. Might be that you look at your feet, and then just close your eyes and feel your body in standing. My initial thing in standing is always that feeling of trying to let my shoulders soften and drop and give away my arms. And it might be now, because we're going to do a couple of things in standing, it might be that you want to move away from the back of your mat and then settle yourself in standing more towards the middle of your mat. It's up to you. And we're just going to do a little bit of swaying from side to side to start with. Yeah, so just swaying, rocking your weight into one foot, rocking your weight into the other foot. Okay. And then what I'd like you to do is to rock your weight into the right leg and foot, and then take your right arm up. And you're going to reach up with the right arm and give away the left arm. And let the left heel come away from the floor. This is all you're doing for the moment. It's reaching up through the right side of the body, the right arm, shifting your weight onto the right leg, and then giving away the left arm and letting the left heel come up. So your left foot is quite light on the floor. Good. And then release all of that. Come back down. And then we just go a little bit further with that. So the same thing, shift your weight over onto your right leg, reach your right arm up, give away the left arm. And this time you're going to let the weight come completely onto the right leg, and you're going to catch the top of your left foot or your trouser leg. Good, and let your knee drop towards the ground. And then at this point, your hand could come down onto your breastbone. And just see how it feels to be here for a couple of cycles of breath. Good. And again, maybe we can have that focus on the shoulders softening. And feeling our standing foot on the floor. Good. And it's fine. If we have a little bit of a wobble, we can come back, or we can just come out of it, stay out. Good. Okay. Come down, have a little shake out of arms and legs. And let's do the same thing on the other side. So settle both feet down. And again, it might help to start by looking at your feet. And then, come back to the swaying from side to side. And what we'll be doing is taking our weight into our left leg and foot now. So weight into the left leg and foot, reaching up with the left arm, giving away the right arm. So the first time we do this, we're not taking our right foot off the floor completely. You can let your right heel come off the floor. But just try and feel that contrast between sort of reaching up through the left side and the right side is heavy and relaxed arm. That's it, heel coming up. Okay, release that. And then we'll go further this time. So you come back maybe to a little bit of swaying from side to side. And then again, weight over onto the left leg. Left arm coming up. So it's that feeling that the left side is growing really long. Let the right heel come up and then let the whole of the right foot come up and catch the top of your foot. Good. And then at that point, your hand could come down onto your breastbone. And we just see on side 2, how does it feel to settle here? 2 or 3 cycles of breath. Just nice, soft, relaxed shoulders. Letting the right knee, the bent knee, drop towards the floor. And obviously, how does it feel to be balancing on this second foot? Maybe one more cycle of breath if you're still feeling reasonably steady. Let the breath come in, let the breath leave you. Come down, have a little shake out. And then we're going to do a bit more of that in a moment, but we're going to come into a forward bend. And I thought in your forward bend, you could do the one where you sort of trail your arms from side to side, the weeping willow one. Yes, you might also like to do a little bit of that in standing before you go into your forward bend, as I realise we haven't done much of that. So you can do a bit of swinging your arms and standing if you like. And then when you come on into a forward bend, if you like, you could do a bit of sort of trailing your arms from side to side. You know, or a quiet forward bend, or even going on into squat. So, you know, it's really, I probably do say this all the time, but it is really important to be led by your body. And so I always find if something arises, like I think about, oh, I'm doing my practice and I think of a pose, it sort of comes up in my head, then I try and do that, because I think that is this thing about sort of trusting our body and our body knowing what we need to do. So if you're in your forward bend and you think about squat, then go on and do a squat. If you're in your forward bend and you're thinking about standing, then it might be time to come out. Good. Yes, that's it. And very nice, wherever you are. That's lovely. And if when you arrive back in standing, if you want to, again, come back to swinging your arms, because that seemed to be quite a popular option. Good. And in a moment, we're going to come back to our balance, but approach it in a different way. Okay, so before we get completely off-piste, let's settle back down in standing with our feet a little distance apart. And you want to be able to step forwards on your mat. You don't need a huge amount of space, just be able to step forwards one step. But so I'm facing the length of my mat now. And you could just come to a little bit of swaying from side to side. And then, yes, you can step one foot forwards and you can come to a little bit of rocking forwards and back. And yes, I always get this feeling when I do this one, it's very interesting, this sort of feeling of, yes, all is well with the world if I can just be here rocking my weight forwards and back, settling down through my legs. Now, what we're going to do eventually is we're going to be taking our weight all the way into our front foot. We'll bring that hand onto our breastbone and we'll catch our back foot. So just as we were a moment ago, coming back to that part of the balance. Yeah, so just as we were a moment ago. And then from here, if you feel you'd like to, you can then start to reach forwards with the hand that was on the breastbone and reach your foot backwards away from your bottom. So if you really sort of try to, yes, pull your foot back, push your foot into your hand. And that does create a bit of a stretch through the front of the back leg, thigh. And we can maybe have a couple of breaths in this balance. Good. And yes, there could be a bit of tilting forwards if you like. Very nice. Yes. Well done. Good. Oh, sorry. What I was going to say is when you come down from that, step that foot back again. So come into that position where we started off, where we're shifting our weight forwards and back. And we'll come into a forward bend here. So bending your front knee and then folding forwards over that bent front leg. So you could be resting your arms. Yeah, so you could be resting on your bent front thigh with your arms, your elbow, or you could be resting your chest onto your front thigh and releasing your arms to the ground. And really let your head go and have a couple of breaths here. And we can kind of come up by sinking into our feet. That's it. Good. Sinking to our feet, coming back up. Stepping our feet back side to side and then stepping the other foot forwards. So we've stepped the other foot forwards and we're just going to do a little bit of rocking. Yes, back to feeling this, I don't know, I always get this sense of well-being when I'm doing this one. So rocking my weight forwards and back. Good. Very nice. And then eventually from here, we'll be taking all our weight again into our front foot. We can bring that front leg hand onto our breastbone. We can catch our back foot. And it might be for a moment that we just settle here in the center. And then we add this sort of forwards and back dynamic into the balance by reaching our hand forwards and our foot back. And possibly there's a little bit of tilting forwards as well. But at the same time, we're drawing our foot back away from our bottom if we can. It is quite a strong, that's it. It's quite a strong stretch through the front of the back leg thigh. Very nice. Good, good. Yeah, that's lovely. And then maybe you arrive at a place where you can have a breath or two. Maybe. Yeah, really lovely. It's very beautiful. And then, yes, when you come back out, so there's no rush. When you come back out, remember we're doing the forward bend. So the back foot steps back again and you bend your front knee and you fold forwards over that front leg. And you can have a couple of quiet breaths here. Let the breath come in, let the breath leave you. Beautiful. That's it. And from there, you can sink down into your heels, roll up into standing. So coming to the back of your mat, we're going to make our way down onto the ground. What I'd like you to do is we're going to do a forward bend. We're going to walk forwards into dog. I think that's right. Yeah, we're going to walk forwards into dog. And then we're going to come back into a forward bend and go down through a squat. So because I wanted you to experience both of these things. So from the back of your mat, you can roll down into your forward bend. And so it's quite nice to start by experiencing your forward bend. How does that feel? As we've done quite a few, there's maybe just a bit more of a feeling of ease. And then from your forward bend, you can walk your hands forwards into dog pose. And just, yeah, how does dog pose feel? Have a couple of breaths here if you like. Of course, bending your knees as much as you like. Looking for that feeling of resting down through big handprints and feeling wide across the back of your shoulders. And then from dog pose, you're going to walk your hands back into your forward bend. And again, just when you arrive in that forward bend, give yourself a moment or two just to feel your body in the forward bend. Each time we come into a movement, there's things to notice and things feel a bit different. And then from the forward bend, we'll go down through a squat again. Again, there's that sort of halfway point you can notice in your squat. How does that feel? And then for some of us, squatting is so helpful for our lower back. So it might be that we want to have a breath or two in the squat. From our squat, like we've done previously, we're going to then roll forwards through the balls of the feet, let the heels come up, come onto hands and knees. And so one last time, we're going to be coming towards our face-up dog. So walking the hands forwards. So you can just do that rocking forwards of the pelvis that we've done previously. If your lower back feels it could benefit from some lengthening out, you could do your cat into face-up dog. So you could be hands and knees, rounding your back to the ceiling, rocking your hips back over your heels, and then traveling into face-up dog with your rounded back, looking back behind you. So if you want to do face-up dog that way, you can. That's quite, I find that's quite good if my lower back is feeling a bit creaky. Or, of course, you can do your tail wagging into face-up dog. So we can wag our tail from side to side back to child pose, and we can wag our tail from side to side forwards into face-up dog. And whenever you've had enough face-up dog, you're going to fold into child pose. Very nice. So that's it. So just finishing off with your face-up dog. A couple of breaths in child pose, and then we're going to be slithering forwards onto our belly, and we're going to then be from our belly moving onto our backs for a couple of things, and then, which is what I'm quite keen on at the moment, as some of you know, this sort of adding in lying down stuff, sort of more in the middle of class. So this isn't the end of class, by the way. So from child pose, slither onto your belly, settle on your belly, maybe one hand on top of the other, and your cheek resting on the back of your hands. And you're going to give your pelvis a bit of a wiggle. So, yes, on the belly, giving your pelvis a bit of a wiggle. And also a couple of quiet breaths on your belly. How does that feel? That's nice. And then you can also do the one on your belly where you bend your knees and take the soles of your feet towards the ceiling. And you let your feet tilt to the right and to the left. That's nice. So obviously if you do this one and your lower back doesn't feel happy, then either don't do it or just bring the feet a bit lower down, a bit closer to the floor. That's nice. It's very nice it's a very nice one to watch, this one on Zoom. From there, you can do a bit more tilting of your feet, but when you've had enough, you can bring your legs down to the floor. And then again, just have a couple of quiet breaths lying on your belly, even if even if it's not your most favorite place to be. Just see how it feels to let the breath come in, to let the breath leave you. One more cycle of breath. Let the breath come in, let the breath leave. And from our belly, we're going to roll onto our back. And if you can, disturb yourself as little as possible. I know sometimes we like to have our head up the other end. So if, whatever's going to make you feel more comfortable. But it's also nice just to come onto your back with as little fuss as possible. And then, yes, that's it. Settle onto your back. And so again, I think I often find there's this sort of feeling of, yes, of well-being, of sort of quiet, quiet pleasure of being on our back. You could let your head just roll a little bit to the right and to the left. That's very nice. And you could also let your knees, if your knees are bent and your feet standing on the floor, you could let your knees tilt a little bit to the right and to the left. Okay, and then let's settle down. Let's keep the right knee bent and the right foot standing on the floor and lengthen the left leg out. And then cross your arms over your chest so you've got your right arm on top. So we should have the right knee bent and the right arm on top. That's it. So we're going to come back to that foot pressing movement we did on our backs at the start of class, but we've also got our arms crossed now. So as you press into your right foot and the right side of your pelvis comes away from the floor, you can also roll across your upper back. So you're rolling your weight towards the back of your left shoulder. That's it. And if you find that you're rolling onto your fingers, onto your right fingers, then just trail the fingers out away from your body on the floor. So we're going to do this a few times. And this, I say it should be, but let's say shoulds, but this should be a sort of nice releasing, sort of massaging type movement. Lynn, you want to have your right arm on top. I think it will work better. Yeah, that right. Yeah. That's it. Yes. Good. Well done. Excellent. So just repeat this a few times. We're pressing into the right foot. As the right side of the pelvis lifts, we're rolling across our upper back. Lovely. And we're just maybe feeling that we're giving ourselves this bit of a massage across the back of ourselves. Very nice. Yes, whenever you're ready, you can swap onto the other side. You might like to, like you were doing, Jan, lengthen out both legs for a moment, uncross your arms. So side 2 is going to be your left knee bent, your left foot standing on the floor, and when you cross your arms over your chest, it's going to be your left arm on top. And then how does it feel to do this movement on side 2? So we press down into our left foot, the left side of our pelvis comes away from the floor. Right, Sarah, just Sarah in Bristol, just see if you can bring your right hand out, down a bit lower, so it's underneath your legs. That's it, yeah. That's it, well done. You know, it's very nice to be able to actually see a few things. It's not always so easy on Zoom. Good. So just repeat this a couple more times on this second side. Lovely. So we're pressing into the foot, the left foot. We're rolling our weight across our upper back towards the back of our right shoulder. We might feel that our left fingertips can sort of reach out on the floor over towards the left. Gosh, far too many lefts and rights. In your own time, you can then just settle in the center, uncross your arms, do whatever you like with your legs for a moment. That's it. And then from here, what you're going to do when you've done whatever you like for a moment is you're going to plant both feet on the floor. Oh, no, sorry, you're not actually. I'd had some other little things we were going to do. I'm just thinking how we're... Okay. Yes, you are going to do this. You're going to plant both feet on the floor and you're going to see how it feels to roll up and down through bridge pose, maybe 3 times. And just think about it as being a movement rather than staying in bridge pose. Just how does it feel though? Yeah, beautiful, very nice. To roll up and down. So feeling your spine peel up off the floor and then placing the vertebrae back down one by one. So I suppose what we're looking for here is the sort of fluidity of bridge pose. Very nice. Yes, and maybe if you're doing your last bridge pose now, just see when you roll into this bridge pose, maybe just have a cycle of breath when you're in bridge and you've got that feeling of your weight resting down through the backs of your shoulders. And just stay very quiet through the front of your body, Sally. Just let those front ribs soften a little bit as well. That's nice, good, good. Okay. This time when you roll down out of bridge, you're going to fold your knees into your chest and you can just have a couple of quiet breaths there, do a little bit of rocking. Very nice, Sharon. You can take your legs up to the ceiling if you like. So what I'd like us to do in a moment is we're going to come off our backs and we're going to see how how dog pose feels, because I suppose one of my things I'm interested in the moment is trying to, come in and out of dog and do things that release our shoulders. Let's see how dog pose feels, and then we're going to do a couple of things that we haven't done for absolutely ages. Obviously, dog pose isn't one of them because we've done that not long ago in this class. So when you're ready, coming over. Yeah, just seeing how your dog pose feels after doing those things on your back. And I find it terribly interesting that even though I didn't do those things on my back, I just talked you into them, my dog pose feels better. So the dog poses look really just gorgeous. Really lovely dog poses. Beautiful. So when you come out of dog pose, you don't have to, but you might like to fold your mat in half for the next couple of things we're doing. So the first thing we're going to do is we're literally just going to touch on this. So we're going to bring our forearms onto the ground and the top of our head onto the ground. And we're just going to do a little bit, you might have to move your arms, we're just going to do a little bit of how does it feel to bring our head onto the ground, and perhaps a little bit of rocking forwards and back on the top of our head. And that is it, okay? And if you don't feel comfortable doing that, you could just do child pose. But if you'd like to, I was interested in this because actually it can be very helpful for the shoulders and the neck. So it's just, I've got my forearms on the ground, I'm bringing the top of my head to rest on the ground. That might be enough. You could also just do a little bit of shifting your weight, rocking a little bit forwards and back. So that's all I'd like you to do. And yeah, and if you don't want to do that, that's absolutely fine. Good. Okay, and then from having your head on the floor, just come for a moment and sit in kneeling, or if kneeling's not comfortable, another comfortable sitting position, and just feel your head sitting down on your spine. So that's it for today. But what we are going to, that's it, headstand-wise. What we are going to do now is we're going to do a little bit of, well, it might just be legs up the wall, or it might be legs on a sofa, a little bit of rolling towards shoulder stand. So you're going to take your mat, and you're going to come so that you can bring your feet onto a chair, a sofa, or the wall. And if you don't want to do any rolling up, that's fine. You could lie with your legs going up the wall, or with your lower legs on your chair. Oh, that feels rather fabulous in itself. So, yes. So if you're going to be rolling up towards shoulder stand, I've seen what everyone's using, very interesting. So it might be that you don't even go into shoulder stand, you might just be doing a bit of rolling up. And actually the first thing I'd like you to do is just settle down, and we'll do a bit of easing the neck out. If you're going to use the wall to roll up, make sure you're not right up against the wall. So then you might need to come slightly further away from the wall. I can't quite see, but it just gets a bit cramped if you're too near the wall. So settle down, and if you are going to do a bit of rolling up, going towards shoulders, and particularly if you haven't done it for a long time, because I haven't been teaching it for a long time. Oh, Chili seems to think this is time to join in now. Not really for dogs. So before you start rolling up, you could just let your head roll a little bit to the right and to the left. Don't do that if you're rolling up. And then from rolling your head, find a comfortable place to settle the back of your head on the floor. Make sure the back of your neck feels nice and long, but equally you're not trying to stretch it out. And then the other thing that's nice to do for a couple of breaths, and Jan, this one is particularly good for you, is to bring your hand onto your breastbone. And just, that's it. Just have a couple of breaths here, feeling how your breastbone can sort of soften and quieten as you exhale. So sometimes when we're rolling up towards shoulder stand, we can get a bit tense here and feel a bit constricted. So just have this sense of softness in the breastbone, and then now you can start to roll up. Yes, Chili does think this is incredibly exciting. So Jan's dog is rolling around on his back, which is wanting to join in. It's very cute. Good. That's lovely. So sinking your feet either into the edge of your sofa or chair or onto your wall. If you're using a wall, it's a sort of inward and downward pressure. And then feel that your pelvis and your spine are peeled away from the floor. Francis, at that point, I would probably rest your arms on the floor rather than on, that's it, rather than on the front of your body, possibly. That's it, good. Okay, looks like Blue was also joining in. So that's nice. And just roll up and down a few times. And it's really, yeah, if you feel, again, this is a really good time to sort of trust the, oh yes, and Atticus also joining in. All the animals seem to think this is quite fun. So this is a really good time to sort of trust your body. And if you feel drawn to going on into shoulder stand, you can do, but if you don't, then don't. That's it. And what else was I going to say? If you do go on into shoulder stand, that's nice. It might be that you go into it for a couple of breaths. If it doesn't feel great, you could come back down and go into it a second time, which is what I've been doing. And then usually that second time, it possibly feels a bit easier. And if you think about all these other things we do, like dog pose, you know, if we only ever did one dog pose, we'd probably never do any more again. It takes a few times for the movement to feel a bit easier and more comfortable. Good. Very nice. Well done, everyone. And again, if you haven't done this for a while, it's really good to, you know, do a little bit, come back down, just rest quietly. Good. And we'll I think probably revisit this in weeks to come. Good. So just resting quietly. Now, yeah. So come down, just give yourself a few quiet breaths. It might be that you let your head ease from side to side again once you're down, not when you're in shoulder stand. And then I usually find that I would like to do some sort of floor twist after shoulder stand. So it might be then that you come back onto your mat, and we're running a little bit out of time, but I mean, the one I tend to always want to do is the floor twist. So we're doing it recently where we fold our knees into our chest, or actually we take our legs up to the ceiling and wrap one arm around the back of the legs, and the other arm comes out at the floor, on the floor at shoulder height, and then we take our knees down in the opposite direction. So you don't have to do that one. You could just lie with your knees bent and your feet standing on the floor, do a bit of tilting your knees. So I think if there's, yeah, it might just be good to do something of your choice now, something a little bit twisty of your choice. Or it could just be quiet, lying down. Yes, or stroking your cat. Or dog. Dogs seem to have disappeared now. So of course, if you are doing a floor twist, just make sure you do both sides of it. And so I suppose what I was going to say is, if you're someone who, I'm not going to spend a huge amount of time in classes doing headstand, but if you're someone who is interested in it, just what we did in terms of bringing your weight onto your head, if you're doing some yoga on your own, just that very reminding yourself of how that feels, which can actually be really nice for the shoulders and the neck. So when you've moved onto both sides of a twist, if you're doing a twist, then just settling onto your backs, putting something warm on if you need something warm on, and we'll have a few quiet breaths. And I always find with shoulder stand, I don't find it easy, but I always feel sort of refreshed after I've done it. I think maybe it's just taking the legs up can really make us feel, sort of refreshed. So settling down onto your back. If you'd like to revisit what we started with, the rubbing your hands together, it may still be cold, bringing your palms over your eyes, then that's always a nice option. You could have a few breaths with your palms over your eyes, your fingers on your forehead, if you like. And from there, you can either bring your hands down to rest on the front of your body or rest your arms by your sides. We'll just maybe have, I think, half a dozen or so quiet cycles of breath, letting our bodies settle, just aware of the flow of the breath through us, allowing ourselves to just be. So you don't need to get up if if you want to carry on lying. If you can, then do so. Thank you, everyone. From next week, I will be able to